また次の質問なんですけれども、トーマスさんは、ステージズの、成人発達理論の、スコアラーにもなっているんですが、その辺について、どうしてその成人発達のことまでかなり深く研究されているのかについて教えていただけますか？
Good question. I don't know exactly how to answer this. A teacher of mine, John Kessler, who has worked with Ken Wilber and was a part of the integral movement in the early days. He became my meditation teacher, and every time he talked about meditation, he talked about development. He just said without one, you can't have the other. They just go together. And so he talked about them in such an integrated way. I thought, if I want to understand myself, if I want to understand meditation, I need to start learning about development. And John Kessler, this was many years ago now, he introduced me to Terry O'Fallon. He said, I think you'd like to study with this person and learn even more about the stages. And what I found working with John and Terry for many years is that they were some of the most mature human beings I had ever met. They felt healthy and they felt wholesome, and I loved the way that they treated other people. I loved the way they took care of their communities. So I had the sense that, like, if these practices can create this good of a human being, I think there's probably something interesting here for me.
そうなのですね。ジョン・ケスラーさんとかテリオ・ファロンさん、まあ、日本人でまだ知らない人も多いんですけれども、どんな魅力があるのかっていうことについて、トーマスさんはどんなふうに感じているのかも教えてもらえますか？
Yeah, examples of Terry and John. Well, I have a story of Terry that I like to tell. I was traveling with Terry once, and we were on our way from the Seattle airport to a retreat center where we were going to teach a retreat together. And I remember after the flight, she needed to use the restroom, and is a busy airport, lots of people, like hustling around, finding luggage, trying to catch their flights. It was kind of a chaotic scene. And I was by the shuttle outside, and I went to the door, and I thought, I'm going to hold the door for Terry. And I saw Terry across the concourse on the other side of the airport. And she was just walking through this sea of people. And when she saw me holding the door, her face, it lit up. She looked like she was 5 years old. She looked like just like a little kid, and her whole face was just full of light. And I felt her heart. It was just full of gratitude. And I could feel that energy from across the airport. And it really touched me. And I didn't say anything at the time, but I think weeks or months later, I said, Terry, do you remember when we were at the airport and I held the door for you? And she and she said, oh yes, I just couldn't believe that somebody would open the door for me. It was so simple. It like is something that happens every day. And yet she was so open-hearted and so present that she was like a little girl again. And I felt her heart just burst open. And when her heart burst open, my heart bursted open. And I find this about the most mature human beings we know, that they tend to have an energy about them that's magnetic. And it's also contagious in the sense that, like, their heart feels joy, feels gratitude, and just being around them, my heart starts to open up, right? So yeah, I've found this about with Terry and John, that they're just such deeply practiced people that just being around them is a teaching. They don't have to say anything. Just to be with them changes us. And Terry and John aren't the only people like this. I know a lot of people like this, but I especially love Terry and John in this way.
ありがとうございます。
Yeah.
本当にテリーさんにはそういうハートが開かれてるっていう感じは私も受けていて、彼女がその発達ってコンパッションが大事なんですっていうふうに言っていて、トーマスさんにも本当にそういうものを感じるんですけども、その発達とコンパッションっていうのがどうして関係するのかってことは、トーマスさんどういうふうに思いますか？
That's a great question. Terry has really spoken about compassion in adult development. John Kessler has really spoken about humility. Um, let me talk about compassion and humility. They're both very important qualities related to development. Compassion, because the more we develop, the more we can hold, the more we can embrace. If I develop into this particular stage, whatever stage it is, it means I can embrace every stage below that stage. And we can describe development as just a journey of increasing embrace in the way that we start to feel a felt sense of intimacy and kindness and regard for every part of ourself and every part of other people. And this is related to shadow work, by the way, because as we integrate our own shadow, we naturally act kinder towards ourselves. And if I can be kind towards myself, then when I see other people who are having challenges, I know immediately I have that challenge too. And so I can be just as kind to that challenge they're having as my own challenges. So we actually aren't developing unless we're developing compassion. We're just kidding ourselves. If we're not growing in compassion, we're not actually growing, you could say. Humility. Humility is a really fascinating aspect of development because the more we grow, the more we develop, the more we realize we're not who we thought we were. As we're developing at different stages, we tend to think like, oh, I'm pretty great. I've accomplished a lot of things. I'm pretty developed. And then if we keep developing, we realize, wait a minute, it's not even me who's developing. It's everything is developing, and the whole world, the whole cosmos is developing. And what I used to call what I used to call me, this is just part of the whole evolutionary arc of things. So I realized I can't take any credit for any of this. I feel this tremendous love in my heart, and I realized I didn't do anything to deserve it. Somehow I'm just born into this flow of creation. And we use the word humility to describe that realization. So I think IPP, something it's really good at is helping us cultivate deep compassion towards all of myself, all of my shadow, all of my problems, all of my struggles, and everybody else's. And it helps me cultivate humility and realize I'm not who I thought I was. And whatever's happening here is actually a great mystery that I'm fortunate to be a part of.
素晴らしいですね。なんかもうこれ、ちょっと YouTube じゃもったいないなって今思いました。